Well, spring is officially in the air, and with that comes the music associated with the warmer months. The Winnipeg Upper Voices Choir will be showcasing those sounds in a concert called At the Spring Dawn this Saturday night in South Osborne. Katy Harmer is the artistic director of Winnipeg Upper Voices and joins us now in the Classic 107 studios. Nice to see you again.
Good morning, Nolan.
So, for those who may not be aware, this is a relatively new ensemble, so maybe you can give us a bit of a primer on who are the Winnipeg Upper Voices.
Sure. Well, it's got a sort of a split history, I suppose.
All
we
right.
got one season in before the pandemic and then shut down for a few years, but we've been back now for 3 seasons. So Winnipeg Upper Voices is a choir for sopranos and altos of any and all genders, so not just women, and anybody is welcome who, as long as they sing soprano or alto. So it's a little bit of a different community that we're tapping into. And it's been growing over the last 3 years. A couple of years ago, we had 18 singers, and now we're up to almost 40 singers.
Wow.
So it's been great. And what makes this a little bit different than most choirs is that we've been trying out over the past few years, rehearsing once a month on Saturdays instead of every week.
Yeah.
Just because the age range of our singers is people are working, busy working,
Yep.
or children, childcare, doing something weekly in the evenings for the singers and for myself is sometimes a little bit much. So we meet on Saturdays. We have lunch together. We do potluck lunch together. It sort of feels like a retreat day.
Yeah.
And it's really been really nice.
You're a rather busy individual yourself, so I imagine having a once a month rehearsal is probably a nice break for you. But you alluded to this idea of people of sort of all voice types and all genders making up this choir, the upper voices, I should say.
Yeah, the upper voices.
The sopranos and altos. Within that, maybe you can talk a bit about the community that exists within Winnipeg Upper Voices, because as anybody who sings in a choir can attest, being a part of a choir is about so much more than just singing together.
Absolutely. And that's the community side of things is really my main philosophy of choir. And that's really important to me. So as I say, everybody who sings soprano and alto is welcome. We always wear name tags because even though we meet only once a month, so it's sometimes hard to get to know people's names. So I always wear my name tag, even though everybody knows my name. But that's really important, and I think that along with singing together, singing together is one of the best ways to create community amongst people and to feel connected to other people. Probably the second best, or maybe equal to, is sharing a meal together. And so that was an important part of it when we were making the transition to this sort of day-long rehearsals, is that, no, we should make the effort to have lunch together rather than everybody going and doing their own lunch and coming back after an hour. Because the sound in the room when we're having lunch together, it's really joyful because we've just been singing together and now we get to share food and fellowship together. And then we go back and the second half of the rehearsal is always a lot more lively and a lot more just new connections have been made or created or built upon during lunch hour. So that's been really, really fun.
Yeah.
And just people bringing the way that the choir has grown mostly is by people saying, "Oh, hey, friend, come and sing and join this choir with me." Or you used to sing in high school, come on back. And a lot of the people in this choir are folks that sang all through high school. They were choir kids. Yeah. And now they're in their 20s, late 20s and 30s, and they want to get back to that. And so it's just lovely.
Yeah, a really organic sort of a growth.
Absolutely.
It seems like very fitting for an ensemble that sings about spring.
Spring this time, yeah.
For example. What's unique about having the sounds of upper voices alone that can then capture the sounds of spring in a way that maybe another choir can't?
Well, that's interesting. Almost all of the music that I choose for this choir ends up being about nature or spring or birds especially. And I think that there's a lot of Upper Voices repertoire that's along those themes. There's some that's a little bit floaty and kind of boring. I like to choose good music on those themes. But I think that, there's something to be, the Upper Voices, the fact that they are all sort of in close range with each other is sometimes a really unique thing. There's one piece we're doing by Sarah Quartel called Songbird, where the voices actually really intertwine amongst each other as though they were like a flock of birds kind of fluttering all around each other.
Like the undulations.
Exactly. And you sometimes don't get that with a mixed choir because you've always got the lower voices are going to be lower. Or at least most of the time that's the case. But with the upper voices, they can really play with the different colors or the fact that the colors are often the same. But we do have also quite a large range. There's some pieces where we've got the second altos all the way down at a low G and the first sopranos at the top of the staff on a high G. And so we do have a full range of colors as well.
Right.
Yeah.
What power do you think music has, as we're speaking about these pieces by composers like Sarah Quartel? What power do you think music has to help us transform as the seasons transform around us? Maybe in other words, how do these types of pieces about spring help to transform us into a new season all on our own?
Well, I think it's kind of neat because we started these songs back in October, where we were
cool.
like on the downward slope,
right.
but we were on the descent into winter,
Yeah.
and we've been sort of working on them as we now are coming up into spring. And one of the pieces we're doing, the title of the concert at the Spring Dawn, is it's a beautiful poem. Let me just find it here in my folder. The poem is by Angelina Weld Grimke. And one of the sort of most evocative lines in this piece, the music is by Andrea Ramsey. But I love this. I watched the dawn come, watched the spring dawn come, and the red sun shouldered his way up. And you can just see and the music does this too, of the sort of like, oh, here we come. Like spring is on its way. It's really trying to get here, even if it snows tomorrow or something. But and I think that singing about these songs all through the winter has been a bit of a optimism as well.
Absolutely wonderful to also, in addition to have these sound qualities of spring, but to also have these words for spring in this National Poetry Month. And of course, we're big fans of poetry here on Classic 107, sharing a poem every morning here on Morning Light. You've been sharing on your Instagram account the poetry behind some of these pieces as you've been getting ready for this concert. What else maybe strikes you about the words that these composers have set, in addition to being about spring, but also having these sort of natural qualities to them?
Yeah, I think that I love how composers look at texts in different ways, and how they sort of take different themes and bring them to life, I suppose. So one piece we're doing by a friend of mine, Marie-Claire Sandon, she's set a poem called Flying, and it's all about how you the words are between the nest and ground is where all birds learn to fly. So as you're falling, and that's where you have to learn to fly. And she's, again, similarly to Sarah Quartel, sort of taken the voices and intertwined them, and sort of has through the music the same sort of feeling as the poetry of these birds are falling, but oh no, now they've figured themselves out, and we start in unison, but then we break into more voices that are kind of intertwined and not hard to listen to, but hard to follow who's doing what. Just like you can't always follow what birds are doing. Yeah. And I love how composers take, like somebody else could take the same poem and do something completely different, and that's really, I love that.
So in addition to pieces like this by Sarah Quartel and Marie-Claire Sandon, you also, I understand, have some choir members contributing maybe some original songs to this concert. Well, you can tell us about that.
Yeah, I've got a couple of folks contributing other songs. Joanna is going to be singing a song that she wrote called "Fool's Spring," which I think I haven't heard it yet, but I look forward to hearing it.
Feels very apt considering all of the colder temperatures we've had to endure.
Exactly. And then one of our members, Shannon, often sings in ceremony in different places, and she's going to be offering a song that she learned, the Loon song, since we have so many songs about birds.
Amazing. Amazing. So now you've got this whole concert about spring, and I'm sure it's maybe a little bit too early to be thinking about the next sort of gatherings for this choir. But now that it's kind of back in earnest after the uncertainty of those public health lockdown years, what do you think this kind of growth that you see in a spring concert for Winnipeg Upper Voices, what do you think that will lead to maybe in future seasons as you see the choir continue this organic growth that we've been talking about?
Well, I would love to. With the model that we have, we really can only do kind of one concert a year just to learn all the music over sort of 6-7 months. But what I would love to do is to partner with another group and maybe do a concert share. Maybe we go there and they come here and we can do performances. So if there's another Upper Voices choir in Manitoba that would like to chat, please reach out, because that would be kind of fun to partner with another group and share our repertoire, share our music, share our community. That's what I love to do.
The call has been issued. The Spring Dawn concert takes place this Saturday night at Churchill Park United Church in South Osborne. Showtime at 7:30. We'll have more information at our website, classic107.com, and the Classic 107 app. Katy Harmer, Artistic Director of Winnipeg Upper Voices, thank you so much, as always, for stopping by our studios.
Thanks, Nolan.